Hi, I'm Richelle Klug, and I am the Communications and Social Media Librarian here at the Swickley Public Library. And I'm really excited to share my book buzz recommendations with you. We are delving into the macabre today with a few titles focused on human cadavers. And if that sentence made you squeamish, this may not be the book review for you. But if it made you think, ooh, tell me more, then you are in for a treat. The first book that I am sharing is called Dark Archives, a librarian's investigation into the science and history of books bound in human skin. It's by Megan Rosenblum, and it was just released at the end of 2020. As the title suggests, this book delves into the anthropomorphic books, or those bound in the skin of human beings. While traditional leather books are made from cattle, sheep, goat, or pig skins, some macabre titles have been bound in human flesh. Megan Rosenblum is a librarian at UCLA and works as a researcher for the Anthropomorphic Book Project. This team developed a method to test the binding of artifacts to determine if they were actually bound in human skin or if the lore surrounding their creation is only a hoax. Although, by modern standards, we may assume these gruesome titles were created by serial killers or murderers, and yes, they were involved. But many were created by bibliophile doctors who were fascinated with human anatomy. From the perspective of a well-researched librarian, Rosenblum references the history surrounding many of these artifacts, delving deep into the cultural practices and moral evolutions around their creation. There's a lot of information regarding scientific practices of the 19th century, which in itself is quite interesting. She discusses the controversy surrounding the creation and existence of these artifacts, both historically and in more current culture. She also touches upon the death-positive movement and the possibility or impossibility of turning your own skin tissue into beautiful bookbinding. Rosenblum has a way of balancing gruesome stories with lighter moments, artfully and professionally portraying the heaviness of the subject matter. I recommend this title for those that are both fascinated by morbid history and bibliophiles who just love to learn about rare book collections. The next macabre title I'm going to share is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Doty. Like Megan Rosenblum, Doty, who is a licensed mortician in LA, is another death-positive promoter. Her first book, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, describes how she began working in her field and all of the practices that to her felt wrong. Doty challenges current perceptions of death and how we as a culture respond to it. She takes the time to describe in detail the process in which bodies of the departed are prepared for burial, including the process of embalming, and attempts to make the body more palatable for viewings. Spoiler alert, there is a lot of sewing involved. But she provides some historical context of funeral services and practices, citing traditions in Western society and throughout the world, though her book From Here to Eternity goes into these traditions in more depth. Doty broaches the subject matter with professionalism and humor, providing an informative look into current death practices and standards. As a booklist review by Catherine Franck puts it, this memoir is a must-read for anyone who plans on dying. But the last title I have for you today is a little bit older. This one's been around for, I think, like 18 years, but it is still quite relevant today and very much worth the read. For the after-death curious, I highly recommend reading Stiff, The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers by Mary Roach. And if you have ever talked to me for longer than 15 minutes, I probably suggested this title to you already. It was the first book that I read that had real death-positive viewpoint. Up until that point, I had never even considered that the departed's body would do anything more than end up in the ground or be cremated. But boy, was I wrong. Although both Dark Archives and Smoke Gets in Your Eyes touch upon the history of cadavers, if you're really looking for a true history lesson, Mary Roach is your go-to. From grave robbing to plastic surgery, the human corpse has been imperative in advancing the knowledge of doctors and scientists since the earliest stages of professional practice. Roach uncovers the good, the bad, and the gruesome in terms of how bodies were procured for scientific experiment and tested on, whether it was willingly or more often unwillingly. She details current uses for cadavers, including her trip to the body farm, or more appropriately termed the Forensic Anthropology Center at the University of Tennessee, where researchers study the decomposition of bodies to further knowledge in the forensic field. Straight up, they put bodies in weird situations outside or inside, and read the book. It's just so interesting to learn about. In Roach's book, readers learn about the many ways bodies can be donated to science once their souls depart. It's not just organ donation. Plus, Roach is a fantastic writer with short quips and witty references. It's just a joy to read any of her books. So I hope, if you are interested, that you pick up one or all of these titles. They're fantastic, and at least Caitlin Doty and Mary Roach both have several other titles that they've written that deal with the same subject matter, and I highly recommend those as well. And all of these books are available in our collection. You can pick them up through a curbside pickup, or you can also get them as ebooks, like this one, that you can read or listen to online. If you want more, you can visit our website at swickleylibrary.org to see everything we have going on. Thanks so much for listening.